Mayfield, possibly out of Cleveland. You want to be a boss? That's how you be a boss. I did. I made a mistake. I am not going to lie to you. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a whole lot of handsome. I'm rejuvenated. I'm rejuvenated for a number of reasons. One, I don't have to go do a show from noon to 3. But two, unfreaking believable Army, Navy at the game. I got to tell you, whatever you think, Twitter or your newspaper or whatever you're reading or seeing and you think that's our country, it's not. I'll tell you what our country is. Our country is Army, Navy, and not only the game was unbelievable, but what are the people around it. The level of person that you see at the Army-Navy game, and I'm not talking about only at the game. My wife and I, the lovely Lee Ross Dakich, we drove 9 hours. We got tickets from Scott Strassmeyer, a friend of mine from Indiana who is now the sports information director / sports coordinator for Navy football and basketball and all that stuff. He told me, he goes, hey, look, you last year said you wanted my 2 tickets, bucket list. It was unbelievable. But here's what's unbelievable. We got there 10, 11 o'clock at night, Friday night after driving. We got to the hotel. We picked the right hotel. The Lowe's was perfect. Here's the deal. Army, Navy people were in the bar. It was loud. So we said, look, we're going to go sit in the corner, get a glass of wine, hang out. Glass of wine became damn near a bottle because we had so much fun. The people there, it was an energized guys hugging, talking about. I was listening to some guys talking about some deployments they have. It didn't matter if you were black, if you were white. It didn't matter if you were tall, you were short, you were old, you were young. Didn't even matter then if you were Army, Navy, man. It was just the best of us. And I got to tell you, I'm not over-exaggerating. In fact, I don't think I can explain it to you. Then you go to the game and Sage is there. You see Sage Steele on the left. She's a good friend. Her father, upper left, Gary Steele, first African-American to ever play football at West Point, and the most impressive dude you're ever going to meet, man. We sat on the sideline in the middle, Chris Harrison, the guy who got absolutely screwed by The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. And then, of course, my beautiful wife. We're on the sideline, and we're just talking to the colonel was unbelievable. He pointed out there's a flag guy up there. Cadets are marching in. This guy tells what chants are going. That young lady right in the front, she's the leader of all the cadets. He is the most impressive man ever. And then the game started. The game starts, and here they come. It's an advertisement for America. It's an advertisement for Army, Navy, man. And I mean the people around, and again, nobody cared. Black, white, poor, rich, young, old. Here they come, and the place is nuts. Like one side, the opposite side was the Army side. I was on the Navy side. So a bunch of my buddies that were there, they had kids go to West Point, are like, here comes Army, baby. Oh, man, goosebumps right now. Planes flying, Black Hawk helicopters flying, stealth bombers flying. But it was the people. I sat next to Sean McGee. Sean was a former player at Navy, and his beautiful family, man, 6 kids. They're cheering. Sean was a lineman. All the people around. I'm telling you, go, 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 and then go, go more. And then the game, kid, I feel so bad for a kid. I'm not going to say his name. Fumbles on the half-yard line. First overtime game ever in the history of Army, Navy. Goes to double overtime. Navy hadn't completed a pass the entire game, or Army hadn't. Boom, touchdown. Navy hadn't, excuse me. It is unbelievable. I swear to you, I don't care whether you got the best seats in the house or you got to sit way up there. Go to the Army-Navy game, get there on Friday night, and just look and watch and enjoy and soak it all in. Honest to God, it was the best. Ken Niyamoto, I'm going to say his name wrong, Coach Ken from Army, one of the great guys, 25 years with Army. He got fired after the game. The Navy coach. He got fired. And he was always gracious with me to come on my radio show. He was always great. Always. When they played Notre Dame, we'd get Coach Ken on. Here's the deal. Here's the importance. So I asked my friend, hey, would Coach Ken have been fired if they'd have won? No. Changes would have had to be made on the offensive line, but no, he wouldn't have been fired. I'm thinking to myself, how horrible does that kid feel? It's not his fault. There's a lot of things go into the game, right? Block punt at the end of the half, but how horrible. So do yourself a favor. I know I'm probably going too long, but I got goosebumps. If you don't like it, then don't go. But I'm telling you, if you even think you might like it, it will be the trip of a lifetime. Saturday night after the game, we go back to the hotel and everybody's there. Please, we sit down. We got a great seat to watch the Indiana game, sitting next to a cadet, his girlfriend, their parents, and we're just talking. And I mean, next thing you know, 7:30 became like 11:30. We just sat and talked with these families about how great this was. People were coming over, and just the best of the best. So, do yourself a favor. Get to the Army-Navy game. And Sage Steele, you're freaking awesome. Chris Harrison, you're freaking awesome. And Gary Steele, unbelievable. He's battling 2 types of cancers, Gary Steele is. What a man's man. What a man's man. Gary's up there on the left, the colonel. The colonel. And what I love, my highlight of the week, Sage texts me. She goes, my dad's a big fan of yours. I'm like, man, a man like that is a fan of me. He goes, yeah, he loves the way you speak your mind. I'm like, oh, how about the little dweebs that hate on me? How about the little media twerps that write about me? And a man like that, life made, period. All right, let's talk some foots. Hey, by the way, I do think the Colts beat the bye. I do. I think they did. I'm listening to this game driving home. The Lions and the Vikings. I got to tell you something. Kirk Cousins threw for 1 million yards, but you got to be able to run the ball. In August, I'm watching the Lions, and I've talked about it on this show. Lions versus Colts, 2 days. I was shocked at how Dan Campbell wasn't a meathead. His team wasn't there to fight. They were there to get better. And I said at the time, if the Colts are any good, then the Lions are good. If the Colts stink, the Lions stink. Well, I was wrong. The Colts do stink, but the Lions are good. And it is literally impossible to root against Dan Campbell and this this Lions team. I'm listening to the game. Dan Campbell, big play, throws a pass to the biggest guy, Penei Sewell. He has to go up and get it. I'm listening to Lomas Brown on the broadcast. Lomas Brown is one of my favorite broadcasters. He's a radio analyst for the Lions. Great player. Should be in the Hall of Fame. Whatever. He's so passionate. They're screaming when the big guy goes up. I didn't have a bet on the game. I didn't care who won the game, except I root for the Vikings because my friend Ryan Grigson is an assistant general manager. But I got to tell you, it was unbelievable listening to these two guys. Dan Campbell has turned this franchise around. He's built a culture, but here's the deal. I want to give you something. 27 of 39, 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. You know who that was? That was Jared Goff. Jared Goff is playing good football. Jared Goff will never get the credit for playing good football because he's behind the 8 ball. But Jared Goff is playing really, really good football. And that, as much as the culture, is why, ladies and gentlemen, boom, the Lions are dangerous right now. Remember we were thinking, why are they a 2.5-point favorite against a 10-2 team? Well, they showed you why, and it really wasn't that close. All right, next on the line, what is going on? And we're going to find out with our friend Jonathan Hutton coming up here. What in the Sam and Henry is going on defensively with your Titans? Look, in my ear, we got all kind of Titans fans. I got Titans fans that I didn't even know Titans fans. My daughter is in Nashville. Tighten up. Everybody's a Titan. Clay and Jonathan and Chad, they host the post-game show. Look, you got to guard somebody. You got to guard. You gave up 36 points to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Crossroads, no. DEFCON 5, maybe. Probably going to make the playoffs because the division stinks. But Crossroads, oh, I don't know. You can't blame this one on Tannehill, or maybe you can. You can't blame this one on Henry. He went for 121. You blame this on the defense. Threw 42 passes. That's what Trevor Lawrence did. Only incomplete on 12. Threw for 370 yards, 3 touchdowns. You got to guard somebody. Crossroads last week, trouble this week. I'm telling you, real trouble. And if you don't get that defense figured out, man. So let me ask you a question. Are the Titans bad because of John Robinson leaving? Or did John Robinson make them bad, which is why he had to leave? Or was he inconsequential? I don't have the answer. But it is an interesting question that my friend Doug Gottlieb put out on Twitter yesterday. I saw it, and I'm like, man, I know he was being facetious. I get what he was doing, but it was like people actually responded to it. I'm like, no. There's front office and there's football, and this team decided they ain't guarding no more. Maybe it's a midseason slump, and they'll come out of it and be better for it. We shall see what we shall see. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. With all due respect to Tom Brady, he can throw tantrums. He can lose his ever-loving mind. He can do whatever he wants to do. But I got to tell you, Tom Brady, I don't know. Tom Brady getting his, you know what? Getting his kicked. I mean, getting it kicked. And here's the deal with getting it kicked. It wasn't close. That started out bad and got worse. I hate the way I look, so I'm not looking at myself anymore. Pale, that's going to change. I'm going to Florida next week. Anyway, Tom Brady lost to Purdy. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Guy is the last pick in the draft. Now, you Indianapolis fans, we can't even find a quarterback in the third round, but somehow, some way, John Lynch finds a quarterback with the last freaking pick in the draft, or his team is good enough that they can cover for a quarterback who's the last pick in the draft. I don't know what to tell you, but I do know this. I do know that my man Brock Purdy is good enough. You go beat Tom Brady 34-7, 35-7, you're doing something. You're not screwing it up. That's true. You're not screwing it up. Think about it. Think about what you're not doing. You ain't screwing it up for anybody. And Tom Brady, again, he's got weapons now. Don't tell me he doesn't have weapons. I mean, I remember when Leonard Fournette was supposed to be something. Godwin, Mike Evans. What's going on here? Can't guard nobody, but you only scored 7. I don't think Tom Brady is washed by the way he throws the football. Like, I don't feel that he is. I don't feel that he's washed up by the way he throws it. I feel he's washed up because people around him are tired of him. Like, I say this before and I'll say this again. You take time off, players are looking at you. You know, you're going through all this crap. I don't know. It just seems like a dysfunctional thing to me. I have a tendency to try to look deeper than the numbers. And the numbers right now, they're not getting it to me. They're not getting it done for me. They're really not. The numbers are fine. I don't even care, but I'm looking at this, and I said this earlier. I did not think they're going to make the playoffs. They will because their league stinks. I also told you Pittsburgh wasn't going to make the playoffs, and they got no shot to make the playoffs. All right, so I'm driving down the street yesterday, and I got 2 games going. One is the Minnesota Vikings, which we talked about earlier, and the other is the Cowboys. I'm saying to myself, wait a second. The Cowboys are losing. The Cowboys are down 23-20. And, by the way, not once but twice, the Texans have the ball, a goal to goal from like the 2. Here's the deal, all right? They get stopped. Prescott hit, interception. They get it back, 1st and goal. Get stopped again. Here's the deal. This is why Babe Laufenberg might be the best broadcaster in the NFL. Babe Laufenberg, when the Texans were on the 2-yard line, up 3, about 3.5 to go, Babe Laufenberg said this, and it was so good. He is the color analyst for radio for the Cowboys. Babe said this. Babe said, look, they're 1-10-1 for a reason. They will screw this up even if they score a touchdown, and this game will come down to the end. And I thought about that for a second, and I thought, man, is that right? Gosh, darn, is that right? So what happens? They call some kind of run play on 4th and 3. They don't get in. Next thing you know, Dak Prescott, bada bada bing, booda bada ba. Boom, touchdown, Ezekiel Elliott. That's it. Touchdown, Ezekiel Elliott. How about that? It was the smartest comment that I've heard. Like, I spend time, I'm starting now, and this is a different topic for a different time, but I'm starting now to just mute games that I watch because nobody adds anything really. Even Romo, he doesn't add anything. Basketball is the worst. Basketball, you can't listen to a single person talk about it. But the truth of the matter is this. The truth of the matter is when Babe Laufenberg said that, I thought to myself, wow, that's genius. Wow. He's right. Wow. History tells me that that's going to happen. And you know what? It absolutely happened. Babe has been on our show. Babe is an Indiana graduate. He was a junior college kid that played football at IU. Babe is a freaking genius, don't at me about it. Just don't. Do not at me about this. I'm sorry. Babe Laufenberg is a genius. I'll tell you who else is a genius. Did you guys see this yesterday? You guys know that on our show, we sometimes bring Jason Allen Hammer on. Now, he's my friend Hammer Time. He has the best show in Indianapolis in the afternoons from 3 to 7. It's a political station, but Hammer also does gambling shows. He texted me yesterday, and I had just done the same thing. We're watching the pregame show, right? We're watching Chargers-Dolphins, and every person, everyone, across the board, there's my TV, across the board, what did they put on? Oh, man, Dolphins going to win. Oh, man, Dolphins going to win. Oh, man, every single person put the Dolphins are going to win. What did I do? As soon as I saw that, I took the Chargers +3. It's called the Ditka effect. Those of you that have listened to my radio show know that when Mike Ditka was on ESPN, whoever he picked, because he never watched nothing, whoever he picked, we bet the opposite, and we made a killing. The Ditka effect was in play yesterday. Every person on NFL, Jason Garrett, Maria Taylor, Tony Dungy, Mike, everybody took the Fids, not us. No. My man Hammer texts me, we're taking Chargers. We're taking the Chargers. 23-17, and I got to tell you, I have not been not the biggest Justin Herbert fan, but I am now. And I thought Chris Collinsworth and Mike Tirico were great yesterday. I thought the way Collinsworth, and he was led into it by Mike, described how well Herbert was playing was magic. Look, it wasn't only the numbers, and the numbers are insane. Threw it 51 times, completed 39, 367 yards, only one touchdown, but it was the decisions. Throw the ball away, pitch it into here, slide, take on a defender, yell first, just a quarterback playing like a guy that is in CYO football. That's the best player doing everything for his team. He was great. Now, Tua couldn't hit a bull. Listen to this saying. It's an Indiana saying. Couldn't hit a bull in the backside with a bass fiddle. Backside, I'm putting it in because we want to monetize the show. But let me give you the numbers here. I think he was 3 for 15 in the first half. That ain't getting it done. 10 for 28. And on top of that, there was no run game. You wonder, how did they keep it that close? They kept it that close because Tyreek Hill made a play that was unbelievable. Ball got squirted out. He caught it, ran with a fumble for, 60 yards. It was unfreaking believable. I got to get moving here because I got a lot to get to. College hoops, you Indiana fans, I'm going to get into Indiana in the second hour. Could I have been this wrong? I said they're the most talented team in the country. No, I tell you who might be, Arizona. I'll get into that in a minute. Alabama beat Houston at their own game. Alabama's good. They got some freshmen that are really good. Anytime cheating Calvin Sampson gets his brains beat out, this guy ain't mad about it. History, I worked for Calvin Sampson for 1 year. I went back to Indiana in 2008. He got fired. The staff got fired. I ended up being the head coach, trying to straighten out a bunch of drug-doing crazy people. Should have just let him keep being drug-doing crazy people, and it would have won some games. Long story short, I don't root for Calvin Sampson because my Hoosiers went on probation because of it. Sampson losing tells you, number one, Purdue's going to be the number one team in the country, and they should be. And number two, college basketball is wide open. Memphis has talent, and Penny Hardaway's starting to figure out the college basketball game. I'm giving you this so you get ready for the NCAA tournament. Don't sleep on Memphis. Athletic, older guys. And they whooped up on Auburn, who, with Bruce Pearl, doesn't lose games like this. Usually Bruce Pearl's teams play really well against teams that are really good. Now, let me say that again. Maybe they took Memphis lightly. I'll get into that. That happened in the NBA. Penn State, this was unbelievable. Penn State went into Champaign and didn't just beat Illinois, throttled Illinois. My man Brad Underwood, who I love, who's been on the show, made fart noises to describe his team. Hey, how'd your team play? I love Brad Underwood. We're not going to have him on after a loss. I never talk to my friends after a loss. Whenever Urban would lose, which was like once a century, I'm like, yeah, I'll wait for him to call me. I don't talk to people after a loss. All right, all you Tennessee people, you can have football. All right? Look, you guys, I'm in Big Ten country here. You guys can have football. But are you going to take our basketball too, SEC people? Look at Tennessee over Maryland. Now, Tennessee did what they could to not score in the second half. Tennessee did everything they could to take like a 20-point or 19-point at one point lead and make it a game. Maryland's really good. You can't have our basketball. You got to give us basketball. I know Michigan and Ohio State are in the college football playoff, but we all know how that's going to go. Michigan's going to play Georgia and lose by 30. Or maybe not. That's for another show. But anyway, you can't take our basketball, Dylan. You can't. I won't have it. But I don't know if the Big Ten's any good. I honestly don't know. All right, tragic news. Very tragic news in the world of, well, media, in the world of soccer, basically all across the world. I did not know at all Grant Wahl. Grant Wahl was a guy that was a really good basketball. He was really, really good as a basketball writer for Sports Illustrated. That's how I knew him. He morphed into a soccer guy. I talked about him because he is the man that wore the pride shirt that got kicked out or was denied entrance into the World Cup. All of a sudden, out of the blue, he passed away. He wrote a story. He was on Twitter. He passed away. His brother believes that Grant was killed. His brother believes Grant was murdered. But listen to this. This gets deeper. There is a second journalist that passed away. Qatari photojournalist Khalid al-Mislam died on Saturday. He worked for Qatari news channel El Kas, which only briefly mentioned his passing on air. He collapsed during a match between Argentina and the Netherlands. The circumstances around al-Mislam's death are still pending. Nobody knows. But isn't it a little shocking? It's a little bit shocking that here is Grant Wahl passing away, 48 years old. I mean, I don't know Grant Wahl, but I read about him seemingly in fantastic health. They said he was laughing minutes before that he passed away. He wore the rainbow shirt. Security didn't let him in. He made a big deal about it, which is fine. You do your thing. We ripped him. That's fine. But his brother Eric says, my husband and I have been on the phone with the State Department. And Grant's wife has been in contact with people in the Biden. We have faith in our country. We're asking to help people ensure Americans are with his body. We do not hate Islam or Muslim people. My brother wore that rainbow shirt at the World Cup in pride of us as gay soccer fans. I spoke with Grant the other day. He thought he'd had bronchitis. I no longer believe that's what it was. Grant told me he'd received death threats. His phone better be among the things at the airport. This is interesting. He had apparently, according to his podcast, come down with bronchitis. He said many of the journalists have gotten sick. He went 17 straight days. He took days off, a couple days off. He was coughing. He has a wife who is a member of the COVID-19 advisory board of Joe Biden. She is a very, Celine Goudner. Man, this story is not even beginning to be told, in my opinion. Whether you agree with Grant Wahl's stance, whether you don't, whether you agree with his COVID, who cares? You go over there to cover an event and you pass away. My thoughts are always with the man's family, including his brother. Trying to get to the bottom of this, and obviously now there is another one that leads me to believe whether the people died of the same thing. What? I don't know. I'm not even going to speculate, but you get bronchitis and you die in a foreign country, particularly after there's some controversy. People need to ask questions, and I hope that they ask the right questions. Who knows? Don't know. Maybe will, maybe they won't. Have no idea. But that is unspeakable tragedy to me, that's where we're at. Two journalists, both died. I don't know. I don't have the answers. Nobody has the answers. I tell you this, I don't give a damn. I want Elon Musk to be the man of the year in the country. I want Elon Musk, whether you agree with him or disagree with him. Man bought a company for $44 billion. Think about that, number one. Doesn't need to do it. Buys a company for $44 billion. Knows as soon as he steps into that, he's going to get attacked from all sides. Hell, as small potatoes as I am, I knew once I went to Outkick, I'd be attacked from all sides. I saw what happened to Clay. We've all seen. So you step into a public forum that goes against regular journalists, you know you're going to take it. So this man goes ahead and takes it. But this man not only takes it, he provides and he fires back. And I love what he's doing here. You know, you hear all the time, Elton John just did it. Well, I'm leaving because of hate speech. Yeah, there are records that show hate speech is actually down. To those of you that are saying hate speech is actually up, show it to me. And show it real. Don't show me some BS. Let's talk real here. Show me real. You can't, you won't, you don't. So Elon Musk put this tweet out the other day after going through all of the files. He's releasing the COVID files coming up here soon. My pronouns are prosecute Fauci. Now, you know and I know that that's not going to go over well. You know and I know that people are going to complain like crazy about that, right? You know and I know that people are going to lose their mind. And certainly they have. Well, this is an insult to marginalized people. Well, this is an insult to, why are you making fun? Well, Musk had an answer for that too. Musk said, look, I don't give a damn. When you force your pronouns onto somebody and then you ostracize those that don't just blindly give into the pronouns, then, ladies and gentlemen, that isn't kind, that isn't nice, that isn't anything. So I love the fact that Musk says, no. This guy, Scott Kelly, said, listen, Elon, please don't mock and promote hate. Everything is hate if you don't just go along. There's no jokes, there's no nothing. Everything is hate towards already marginalized, at risk of violence members of the LGBTQ plus community. These are real people with real feelings. Furthermore, Dr. Fauci is a dedicated public service whose sole motivation was saving lives. This is Scott Kelly, who's a very famous guy. He's an astronaut, retired U.S. Navy captain. I love Musk's reply. I love it. I strongly disagree, Musk said. Forcing your pronouns upon others when they didn't ask and implicitly ostracizing those who don't is neither good nor kind to anybody. As for Fauci, he lied to Congress, funded gain-of-function research that killed millions of people. Not awesome, in my opinion. See, I love that Fauci does that. See, here's the world that we live in. Everybody wants to be a victim. Well, these are marginalized. These are this, these are that, or these are sad. Hell, I was 14 years as a radio host. You know what my controversies were? I want you to think about this for a second. These horrible controversies, right? I told my school back when Archie Miller was there to quit cheating. And I went off on it. Some dudes got mad. Rich dudes got mad. I got suspended. So telling my school, second thing, I told a crazy-ass liberal professor who hates sports that no, when she sent me a tweet saying she wanted to go at it in a pool with me, I knew what she meant, and I know what I meant. I said, no, I don't go in a pool with anybody that isn't my wife. I said no. That was a controversy, national news. Third thing, in 14 years, three things. Third thing, I told the town of Scottsburg, hey, look, you fired this young coach with 2 kids, a young wife, a young family during COVID because school board members and other parents got mad because he was too tough. And I went nuts. Said a couple things, apologized for those things. National news. Those 3 things are national news. So we are so soft. Well, you know, you can't even joke. Prosecute Fauci. That's inspiring violence. Shut up. These are people with real feelings. Hey, see this? This right here is a baby. When the doctor smacks you on the ass and you start crying as a baby, guess what? He doesn't say, oh, by the way, your feelings will never be hurt. Oh, by the way, life will be perfect. Screw that. That was funny. That was poignant. That was political. That was beautiful. And his response, even more beautiful. I say, that we put, and we make damn sure that Elon Musk is the man of the year. This guy Zelensky runs a corrupt government. All the little wokies put their little flag out. I stand with Ukraine. Meanwhile, your and my tax money is going over there by the billions. That guy's the man of the year, according to the wokies. My backside. The man of the year is Elon Musk. He didn't have to do what he's doing, but free speech is all the rage now on Twitter, and the wokies are blanked off about it. Good. Hey, Elton, out of here. You'll be back. You always come back. It's like listeners to my show. Dakich, you suck. I'm never listening again. Yeah, pull this. It plays Jingle Bells. You'll always be back. It's our Monday segment with Mike Griffiths. I can't wait. We're going to talk about the Heisman Trophy. We're going to find out the latest on Mike Leach. I got to know, man. Mike Leach, I had a great weekend with him one time with Urban and the wives and a bunch of people in Florida. I love Mike Leach. Hope he's all right. We're going to get into all of this. Also, we're going to get into the NFL with Jonathan Hutton. I don't know what the hell's going on with the Titans. I do know this. The Colts beat the bye, baby. We'll be right back.
Two teams went out. One was actually a team from the unit that I now play on TV that was attached to us. They went out. They went on the front side, or went around to go to the front side of this other house. And my team was basically going towards the back side of the house. So very shortly, what happened was it was the wrong house. And when we hit that one house, the actual house it was, which was next door, which is not exactly next door because Sutter City is kind of weird of how it's built. But, you know, they heard us. They were getting ready, prepping, you know, their gear, you know, and so they were ready to go. So when that team came around, a bunch of dudes opened up out of the front, what I assume would be the living room, with AKs and shot. I think they shot three. If I'm not mistaken, they shot three of the members of that team. Two of them were pretty much out of the fight at that point. But they were, I mean, it was heavy. I wasn't on that side of the house, but just hearing it, I was like, oh man, that's extreme. So I ran into the back door, which came into the kitchen, cleared through there, went in the hallway, and those same guys, as we approached that room, shot through the walls of that hallway, shot the guy literally right next to me. So then we backed off, and then we were and I'd have to draw it out, but we were in a tactical position that was just there wasn't a lot we could do. So we were trying to kind of figure out how to solve it. And the next thing I know, I remember just the whole room, or actually it wasn't really a room, it was the hallway, you know, so it was more like a tube straight at me, and just everything exploded. And I actually remember hitting the ground and looking up down the hallway. I was just confused.
Hey, I got breaking news, and man, it's disturbing. Chris Beard is the head coach of the University of Texas basketball team, and they're as good a basketball team as there is in the country. But Chris Beard has been arrested early this morning, around 4:15 in the morning. According to Tony Platensky, he was arrested and charged with assault on a family member, apparently strangling a family member. There are no there are no other there's no more information other than charges: assault on a family / household member, impede breath circulation, felony 3rd degree. So we'll let you know if more information comes out. Mike Griffith joins us. Mike, man, a lot going on. What would your reaction be to anything like that? I mean, what are you doing?
Well, I try not to react without knowing much about it, Dan, and I'm learning it in real time, just like you. I don't know the family history or the particulars of it. I would just say that, in all instances that more evidence, coaches, they're people too. I mean, life happens. And again, it's unfortunate. It's anytime anybody's charged with anything, obviously there's been some happening to some degree. I don't know what in terms of the letter of the law, but you just look and you go, yeah, I mean, this is life. I mean, coaches are not, even though we put them and athletes on a pedestal, obviously, life happens, Dan. I guess that's my reaction anytime I hear anything about this sort of deal.
Mike, I want to get into something with you. The Heisman Trophy, Caleb Williams wins. People are mad at different voters. I don't know. Look, here's my take, and then I'm going to give you, the floor.
Sure.
I'll vote for who the hell I want to vote for. I mean, I'm going to vote for who the hell I want to vote for. And if I think that Marvin Harrison is better, then I'm going to vote for that. And I don't want to hear from nobody. It's my vote, not a consensus vote, Mike. I don't know where you are on that, but let me ask, where are you on that?
No, I'm with you, and that's what makes it interesting, is that different people kind of have different opinions and different reasons for who they vote for. We talked last week about, best versus deserved. I kind of compare it to a beauty contest, and I haven't watched the Miss Universe or Miss America pageant in a long time. I guess it's overlapped with assignments, but when I did watch it on the occasions I have, I remember thinking to myself when they announced the 10 finalists, how do you pick the winner and who's the loser? Like everybody in Miss America, like everybody in the state of Georgia thinks that Miss Georgia should win, that she's the prettiest. And everybody from Michigan thinks that it's Miss Michigan. And I kind of compare this the same way. Look, these are all great players. There's a case to be made for all of them. You can go 10 deep all the way down to Drake May at North Carolina and what he did as a freshman. If you look at his numbers, they're unbelievable. Michael Penix at Washington led the nation in passing, a 2-loss team. Same number of losses as Caleb Williams. Bryce Young, a guy that I personally thought was the best player in the country. He finished with the same number of losses as Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams lost twice to the team that Florida beat. Florida's the middle of the pack. So anybody could make a case for their guy. Well, Georgia's case was Stetson Bennett. He's the quarterback on the number 1 team. He hasn't lost any games this year. How does it get any better than that? So there's a lot of different cases to be made for different players. And I think that the way we receive our media and our knowledge and our information, whether it's through social media or our websites, media coverage now is a lot more kind of like Burger King. Everybody gets to kind of have it their way. Politics, turn on a certain dial and you can see what you want to see. And somebody's going to report the news with the right filter that you want to hear. This recent, I've seen Clay Travis talk a lot recently about this whole Twitter. It was a mind control thing. They were taking out information. And so we really weren't seeing a balanced level of information from different sources. And we didn't realize we were being manipulated. I don't think that happens in college sports quite so much, but do I think the SEC and the Big Ten have an advantage with the SEC network and the Big Ten network? Well, absolutely, because that's more opportunities from players for those conferences to be promoted. So I think there's a lot of dynamics involved that lead to the audience and to the consumer being confused and having some discussion amongst themselves because their news source says this guy was the best. Well, this news source points out these statistics. And so it leaves people conflicted. And that's just kind of where we're at as a society with our news and media right now is, I don't want to say conflicting reports, but reports are often filtered by the news sources that kind of serves their, constituents and the people that want to get it delivered to them that way. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense to you or not, but that explains why so many people are arguing about it.
Yeah, and it's like I say about everything else. People now, a guy puts his top 25 poll out, and there's idiots that criticize the guy. Maybe I see something different than you see. I'm going to get into the Twitter stuff later on. The Twitter stuff is unbelievable, and Elon Musk is my hero, but whatever. But, it just amazes me. Like, I watched a lot of Ohio State football. I thought Marvin Harrison was great. I thought that C.J. Stroud played like crap in the last game, the biggest game of the year, maybe the only game that matters. So if somebody put Marvin Harrison as their vote, then fine. I don't know. Fine. That's the Heisman. When you look, when you look at the Heisman Trophy, is it possible for anybody other than a quarterback to win this thing? I mean, does that diminish the trophy?
I don't think it does, Dan. I think it's just kind of the lay of the land. I was curious this morning. I did some research. I said, well, how's NFL MVP looked, right? And they have the Pro Football Writers. And do you realize 14 of the last 15 NFL MVPs have been quarterbacks? And the one that wasn't was Adrian Peterson. And, so it kind of put that theory to the test. I wondered the same thing you did. And I thought, well, you know what? One of the guys that I was really fortunate to cover when I was in college with the Detroit Lions was Barry Sanders. And to this day, I still think Barry Sanders is the greatest running back I've ever seen. Not the most accomplished. Obviously, there were running backs that had more yardage. There were running backs that were more effective. But when I watched Barry Sanders play, I literally came out of my seat every time he had the ball. It was kind of the Michael Jordan effect. Same thing when I watched Jordan in basketball. There's certain athletes that transcend the sport to me that you realize. Wayne Gretzky in hockey. I was an Elway guy back before I became a hardened journalist. I like to watch Elway because of the throws he could make and the ability to extend plays and run before it was fashionable, right? But I went back and looked, and believe it or not, Barry Sanders was only selected as the NFL MVP one time. And I thought he was the best player in football for at least 3, 4, if not 5 seasons. But to your point, the quarterbacks or the teams that win championships, they kind of get the nod. Think about this. Peyton Manning was a 5-time NFL MVP. I don't know the latest count on Tom Brady, but I want to say it was 2 or 3. So Brady's winning the Super Bowls, but Peyton's winning the MVP vote. Who do I think was a better quarterback? I used to say Peyton automatically. But now that I'm watching Bill Belichick flounder without Tom Brady, I'm beginning to think how overrated was Bill Belichick, right? So I've opened up a whole nother can of worms. I didn't intend to do that. But to your point, it is really hard for anybody other than a quarterback to win it. We did see Devontae Smith win it at Alabama, but I think part of that might have just been Alabama fatigue to some extent.
One of the things, to your point, 13 years Walter Payton played football in Chicago, and he was my all-time favorite player. I would argue in my old-ass lifetime, he's the best football player I've ever seen. One time was he the most valuable player, in the league. And to me, I'm like, wow. And I know the Bears weren't great other than 85, but man, oh man, I get what you're saying. I'll tell you what I don't get, boss. I coached for 25 years. I coached for a man that was very tough. Played for him, coached with him, loved him for a long time. Anyway, I was a very tough coach, ridiculously tough, stupid tough, on players, demanding, that kind of thing. I would never have danced. There's not a chance in holy hell. Bob Knight, myself, I don't get this, Coach. I understand we got to kiss the backside of 18 to 23-year-olds. I understand the money is astronomical. I understand. Can we play Nick Saban dancing, and then can I get your reaction to it, Mike? Saban is dancing to the Cupid Shuffle, and I'm sitting there going, oh, man, are you serious? Come on, yep. Mike. What are we doing, Mike?
71 years old, and Nick Saban is still out there on the road dancing his way to the #1 recruiting class, Alabama fans will tell you. But I'm with you. The thing that's fascinating to me is whether it's Nick Saban doing the Cupid Shuffle at in-home visits or Brian Kelly dancing and videos in studio is these coaches are going to, it just goes to show you, these coaches are going to do whatever it takes in order to get these players. What's fascinating is how the power dynamics shift in the relationship once that kid gets on campus. It's almost like, okay, I danced to get you here, but now you're mine. And in one of these videos 4 years ago that came up, a kid named Eddie Smith, Saban danced in his home. The kid came, he was on campus 3 years, didn't put up any stats, transferred to Illinois, and now he's transferred again to Arkansas State. But you know what? He got Nick Saban to dance in his house. Now, I wondered, and I said this aloud with Kirby Smart. Kirby's a pretty competitive guy. Is he being outdone on the dance trail, or does Kirby maybe have a magic act or a card trick that you almost wonder? But here's where I'm at with it. Let's skip the dancing. How much money do you want? Let's just get right down to brass tacks.
Right.
What do you need? What's the price tag for the top recruit? If I dance, do we get to take $1 million off of it? Is there a value to this? Because if I'm a coach, I'm with you, Dan. I'm over the dog and pony show. This is now turned professional, and we're going to have a contract. We're going to have an understanding, and here's what your compensation is going to be, and here's what the expectations are, and here's what we're going to promise you. You're going to come in and, we're going to play you in 2 games, or yeah, we're going to give you this opportunity, this position, or just to be honest with you, we're looking at you as more of a project, and you're probably going to redshirt. But I think now we're at a point where finances are involved, where we need to see more things in writing. And that's scary, but I think that's where we're at.
I think we're going to see contracts if we don't already have contracts. Look, I don't know. At some point, contracts have to be in play here, no?
Well, they do, and it's a two-way street, because the kind of the underbelly of the college football locker room that a lot of people and a lot of fan bases don't want to acknowledge is, fans get upset when these guys leave the program, but they don't get upset when the coaching staff runs guys off. Well, wait a minute, I signed with you. Yeah, but, things aren't quite working out. The kid's not traveling. If he's injured, he doesn't get to go out on team outings at a bowl game. Only the healthy players. There's ways that coaches and programs run off talent. Deion Sanders, for all the tough talk and everybody that loved it, he wants people to leave. He wants that roster reloaded. And what about the kids that are committed? I'll give you a great example, Dan. Michael Penix. I flew down to Florida. He was committed to Tennessee. And I was flying down to Florida in order to do an interview with him. And when my plane landed and my phone turned on, I found out that he no longer had a scholarship to the University of Tennessee. And I called his parents and I said, I'd still like to interview him. And I came to their house and I spent 3 days with the Penix family. I didn't spend the night there, but I was there every day as different schools were coming in. South Florida came in, Indiana successfully came in, Florida State pursued him for a visit, because here's a kid who was going to sign in the early signing period, and he finds out 10 days before that he doesn't have a scholarship anymore. And now it's fast forward. He's got to find somewhere, right? Now, things worked out okay for Michael Penix, obviously. He's doing a great job at Washington. He's coming back. He only lost 2 games. He was in the top 10 in the Heisman Trophy voting. He led the nation in passing. But he's had a long, complicated road, right? But my point is this. It's a two-way street. So when the fans get upset, when the kids decommit, or when the kids transfer, they need to look a little bit harder and say there's other kids that maybe their program pulled scholarships from at the last minute, went cold on them, or ran them off, or gave them the clear idea that, you know what, I know we entered into this as a 4-year scholarship agreement, but it's not working out. You're not going to play for us, and I'm going to find ways to dissuade you from staying, or maybe just come right out and tell you may need to look around. So it's a two-way street. I think this is where we're at with college football. I know a lot of college football traditionalists. This isn't exactly what they signed up for. It's not as warm and fuzzy as we all once thought it was. Maybe it never really was, but now it's a lot more transparent with social media, number one. And number two, now that this portal is opened up and, we see 1,000 athletes in there, now the untold story there, Dan, is a lot of these kids aren't ever coming out. They're going in and they ain't coming out. They're lost. I don't know where they're going to end up.
That's exactly right. I mean, look, I saw a study yesterday, or I talked about it last week. 60% of kids don't find a place, 40% do. I mean, so, people think that the grass is always greener. You got to be careful. Hey, let me go to something you said. When I was coaching, I always told players, look, I'm going to work with you as long as you work with me. You hit a girl, you're gone. You get a failed drug test, you're gone. Now, I got to tell you, I wouldn't have any problem getting rid of a kid. I got rid of a kid one time because I told him, you're not good enough, but if you're not going to work out, if you're not going to do what I'm asking you to do, you can't be here. You'll keep your scholarship, but you can't be here. That kid's still mad at me. Now I wouldn't give a crap. I'd be like, hey, look, all right, this is a business. You're not good enough. You need to go, period. That's, I swear to God, Mike, it's a business. That's where we're at right now from both sides.
Well, and I'll tell you something that a lot of people aren't talking about that's the next step is the academic responsibility of the players. Is it really there? Does it really matter? Or is this just a charade? How much academics, how much did they matter in the Heisman Trophy voting? Did anybody even bring up the academics or the majors of these players? Is this something that we should consider? Is this now part of being a great student athlete? Are there checks and balances in place, right? Because part of the reason why, from what I understand, USA Today did a really nice story on what different schools are spending on their support staffs. And there's a former Olympic swimmer saying, wait a minute, this money that's being spent on football, on chefs and massage chairs, how are we justifying this as educational expense? This is why this is tax-free. I think the whole thing is going to be going under the microscope, and for better or worse. And I'm not even sure where I stand on it, Dan. I know I'm not really supposed to bring up problems unless I have a solution. Or that's typically, I try not to bring up problems unless I have a solution. But I step back from this and say, what are we doing here? NIL money, free transfers. The idea originally for this transfer situation was to help kids out that, needed to be closer to a relative or were in an unfortunate circumstance or, wanted to major in something they couldn't get at their school. Well, it's turned into completely something else. It's turned into wild free agency. And Nick Saban told us, by the way, that this was going to happen. I'll never forget being in Destin in 2018 when a lot of pushback was happening on this. Maybe it was 2017, 2018. And a lot of pushback on transfers, right? Should they have immediate transfer? It was about the SEC rule. Or do you need to sit out a year? And Saban was saying that he wanted the rule applied. And there were a lot of people saying no. And he said, why is everybody mad at me? I'm just trying to apply the rules. And then Nick told him, if we go here, right, you think you're going to be getting a lot of Alabama players. Guess what? There's going to be a lot of players who are going to want to come down. And he warned everybody. We really need to think about this. Do we really want to open this door, this Pandora's box, as Chris Fowler once called it? Do we really want to open this door for this? And the answer was yes, student rights. And so here we are. But now there's going to be some unintended consequences. We need to look closer about the role that academic compliance plays in this. We need to look closer at if we're managing a level playing field, which was part of the NCAA's responsibility. Because now, obviously, not everybody has similar NIL funds, much less facilities, right? And we're seeing this conference out here, this WAC and some other conference trying to scramble and form yet another everybody wants a piece of the pie and this big television It's turned into something, Dan, unintended consequences that it wasn't originally supposed to be. And we're all just kind of we're kind of watching this thing evolve. I don't think there's a clear path or a clear destruction. Destruction is actually the right word. Thank you, Dr. Freud. The problem is we don't have any leadership. The reason that there's no clear direction is because there's no leader. And I don't know when it changes. Right now, the money is leading the way, Dan.
I go back to what you said earlier. You can dance, coach. You can do the Cupid shuffle. You can do whatever. What's the finances? What are we doing? I saw Bijan Robinson got a Lamborghini. You know what? Am I going to be that? What's the finances? It's a cute little video where he's dancing and the family's around and guys are laughing. But let's be honest. The dance floor, as they do in the mafia, goes to the back room where the real deal is made.
No doubt. And what are the dynamics going to be? That's another thing, Dan. You've been a coach. Hey, coach, player Z over here, he's got a $2 million deal. I'm only making $500,000 and I'm the starter. I beat him out. Can you get me the same money that he's getting?
And then I'll give you another one.
Coach,
I'll give you one.
If you're the coach, Hey, we got your booster on line one, Dan, wants to know why the kid that he set up a $2 million NIL deal for is not playing. Wants to know when you're going to play him. You said you needed to have him in recruiting, and now you're not using him.
I'll give you one that's happening right now, Mike. I got this from a coach. Guys know what other I don't want to use the school because
Today's edition of the Trey Wallace Podcast. Happy to be joined by Barrett Salee. Everything is powered by Outkick.com. Barrett Salee of CBS Sports joins us. What's up, buddy?
Oh, just getting through transfer portal palooza, bowl games. It's funny, Trey. I don't know if you feel this way, but I've noticed this for a while now. The offseason in college football is so much crazier because there's no structure to it. Like there's not like a pattern like there is during game week. I mean, it's been crazy the last couple of days.
It hasn't stopped, and that's the wild part about it. I mean, we were sitting in Atlanta on Saturday afternoon and watching Georgia demolish LSU, and we knew what was coming on Monday, and I don't think we expected it to be.
Hey, Mike, I'm sorry, I had a little technical difficulty. I was going to say this. Here's what's happening. Mike, I know what players are making. I'm at college A, you're at B. I know what your players are making. I get to your guy, and I say, you're making $500,000, transfer here, I can get you $1 million. I'm telling you, that's happened a lot of different places. That is an unintended consequence right there.
Well, and flip it around, Dan, for the coaches that don't know what they're making, that are interested in a kid, and they ask the kid, how much is it going to take to get you? The kid doesn't have to tell him exactly what he's making. He can say, well, school A is giving me 500 or 800,000. How real is that offer? Now that the coach is at a disadvantage, how much is it going to take? I remember Brian Kelly talked about this last summer. You don't really know what it's going to take. This is not transparent. To this point, this is not a transparent process. Now, they need to get the NIL deals to the point where it's a transparent process, and then everybody can make informed decisions, because right now, part of the reason why the coaches are hooting and hollering is because, Dan, they're at a disadvantage now. The coaches are used to being in charge. Coaches are powerful people, right? They stand in front of the podium and they say things, and you think to yourself, does he really believe that? Is anybody going to tell the emperor he's got no clothes? Not in that football building, because guess what? If you don't sign on with what the coach thinks, you're out of here. You could be fired. There's buildings where people are not allowed to talk to the coach unless the coach talks to them first. That is the world that the coach lives in. You want to know who's got the most power over the coach? His wife. That's who has the most power over the coach. Not the president, not the AD. The person that can get in the coach's ear and line him up about that play call, and he has to listen, it's the wife when he gets home. And this is true. And these guys, some of them are so far removed from reality. When's the last time they went through a grocery store checkout? Self-checkout, what's that? When's the last time the coach went and bought groceries for himself, right? So it's pretty funny and pretty fascinating. But you got to think this is the world they live in. These are kingdoms. And college coaches have more power than anybody because they can also control the media. They get to control the credential load. If there's a question that someone doesn't like, it doesn't get answered. Different players aren't made available. They're kept from the media. So you can't really get to that story. So there's a lot of dynamics involved where coaches have power. But now in recruiting with players and no transparency of the other offers and the money that's on the table, these coaches have to go to grade. So maybe Nick Saban's not so foolish, Dan. Maybe him and Brian, maybe they've got it figured out. Maybe a little bit of dancing beats a lot of BS and a lot of negotiating and just puts enough feel good in the room and lets the family know, you know what? If Nick Saban's willing to dance so little Johnny will go to Alabama, that tells me that he's all in on my son and he truly cares because he's just like a member of our family. Now, Coach, do you want to sit down and have a meal? And Dan, let me ask you this, because I know you ate some of those meals. I want to know the worst meal that you ever ate on a recruiting trip that you did not want to eat. That's what I want to know today.
I'm not going to lie to you. I had to go eat, and I do not like vegetables, but because a mother was very proud of this spinach dip that she makes, and apparently it's famous in their family. I'm sitting around, we're talking at the table, and I got to eat this spinach dip that, Mike, I swear to God, it tasted like what my grandfather used to smell like. You know what I'm saying? Like a combination of sweat, sausage, backside, farts. I mean, Mike, I can still remember. No, here, take some home. Okay. My spinach freaking dip in, I think it was, I'm not going to say the city, but it was a town in Ohio. I'll never, ever forget it. Mike, let's do it again next week, my friend. Thank you for the time.
I look forward to it, Dan. Thanks, man.
Yeah, man, spinach dip in Ohio. Oh, I can still remember. And I looked at my assistant when we walked out. I go, I don't ever want to do that again. That was horrible. All right, speaking of problems, you got problems? I can't believe what I'm going to say. Jonathan Hutton's going to join us. The Titans got big problem. By the way, breaking news, basketball coach Chris Beard of Texas arrested on third-degree felony charges of strangulation. I can't believe it. We'll be right back.
Today's edition of the Trey Wallace Podcast. Happy to be joined by Barrett Salee. Everything is powered by Outkick.com. Barrett Salee of CBS Sports joins us. What's up, buddy?
Oh, just getting through transfer portal palooza, bowl games. It's funny, Trey. I don't know if you feel this way, but I've noticed this for a while now. The offseason in college football is so much crazier because there's no structure to it. Like there's not like a pattern like there is during game week. I mean, it's been crazy the last couple of days.
It hasn't stopped, and that's the wild part about it. I mean, we were sitting in Atlanta on Saturday afternoon and watching Georgia demolish LSU, and we knew what was coming on Monday. And I don't think we expected it to be as we knew it was going to be crazy in a sense of there's going to be a lot of people testing the waters. But man, what we are seeing in the transfer portal, Barrett, it is setting up for the future. And there's a lot of kids that are going to be looking for homes after January, I think, that aren't going to have a spot.
Yeah, over 1,000 kids in the portal as of this morning. I kind of thought there would be a small group that, just put their name in just every single year, which, I mean, look, I get it. It makes sense. You're going to improve or you're going to have issues. And so you want to find different spots after every season. And, I understand that, but I mean, it is just nonstop. The names that get put in there. I think that coaches and even players that are not putting their names in the portal probably did not expect the wild, wild west to be this wild. And the fact that you're getting so much booster money, collective money put in, the NCAA has got to be throwing their hands up in Indianapolis. Like, what do we do? What do we do? Because you're not supposed to recruit with NIL
All right, let's talk. We're going to talk in NFL. Jonathan Hutton, our friend, co-worker. You see him, you hear him, you know him, you love him on Outkick 360 right there in Nash Vegas. Hey, if last week was, a crossroads, this is like DEFCON 5 going on here in Tennessee. What is going on?
This week they're in the crosshairs, Dan, after losing 36-22 yesterday to the Jacksonville Jaguars. The same Jags defense that gave up 40 plus or whatever it was to the Detroit Lions a week ago. The Titans turn it over 4 times. Derrick Henry fumbles twice. Tannehill throws a pick. It's ugly. And yeah, it's the first 3-game losing streak that the Titans have had since 2018. And this at one point was a 7-5 Tennessee Titans team looking at the playoffs. And they've gone from that to talking about the offseason because of what the ownership did this past week by firing John Robinson. It's very difficult now because I think Vrabel, and I didn't put this together last week before we saw the results yesterday, but I do think he's entering a stretch where it's the most difficult stretch of his young head coaching career. And I don't think I'm shortchanging anything else he's done. His first game was the longest game in NFL history, which I was a part of with Titans Radio. And he started there in Miami and then ends up losing to Jacksonville yesterday after John Robinson gets fired. It's a strange week, and it was a very un-Titans-like week, at least from the perspective of what we've seen ownership and management do in this era of Robinson and Vrabel. And yesterday was a very un-Vrabel-like performance by his team, where they didn't protect the football. And quite frankly, they folded. They folded in the third quarter to Jacksonville. And Dan, let me just put this in perspective for you. Derrick Henry, who has been averaging just a little over 2 yards per carry through this stretch where it has not been good since about week 9, week 10. He, in the first quarter yesterday, had 96 yards rushing. He dominates Jacksonville. He teabags Jacksonville on the routine twice a year. And we're like, man, this is the remedy. You want to get right for Derrick Henry, it's the Jags. And by the way, 96 yards in the first quarter, that's the most he's ever had in the first quarter for his career. He ends up with 111 yards at halftime and had 2 yards rushing total in the second half. The fans are headed for the exits with a minute left in the third quarter. That's how quick and how bad it got yesterday at Nissan Stadium for Tennessee.
So let me ask you, you really never got a handle on Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence had a great game. Why? You can point to a lot of stuff, but on the field, what's going on with their defense? Where are they now defensively?
Well, that's the issue, because they had a legitimate top scoring defense in the NFL through the 9-game stretch of this season, which was the 9 games between the Buffalo game, right after the Buffalo game, until a couple of weeks ago. And this is now a defense that does not have an identity. They give up big plays. They're getting gashed in the passing game. It was a defense that had only allowed more than 21 points 2 times before yesterday, Buffalo and Philly. And then they just allowed 36 to Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence was great yesterday. They started slow. Give the Jags credit. I mean, they made 20 points off of 4 turnovers, and they also had long drives. I mean, they had 3 long drives that put this game away. And you're right about the defense. The defense in the past has been able to pick this team up, even when the player who has carried this team literally and figuratively on his back throughout a window here of a championship window. It's certainly not here right now. And Derrick Henry fumbles. The defense at worst normally gives up a field goal, even after a long drive. And they did that right before halftime. They gave up a big touchdown after Henry's fumble. And then, Dan, the backbreaker was that, paired with the fact that Jacksonville got the ball to start the second half. They returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown in the third quarter. It was called back due to a hold. And then Trevor Lawrence went on a long 12-play drive, 72 yards, and it ends in the end zone. That was the backbreaker. That was the nail in the coffin. And that's what led to fans leaving with about a minute to go in the third quarter.
Friend of mine on our YouTube chat says, hey, everybody, well, apparently they want Todd Downing fired. Everybody wants to be fired. Is the new thing in the NFL like I got to apologize for my performance? I mean, does the Titans demand that the defense apologizes like Zach Wilson had to?
No, no, because this team for a long time, the Jets have been bad for a long time, and
right.
The Titans through this era, it got to a point where they were winning at this clip that there was an arrogance about how they were winning, their style of winning. It's going to be a dogfight, a gentleman's brawl, if you want to call it that, a fight night, whatever, in the trenches. And they're going to guarantee that, they're going to win the brawl for all weekly if you want to get into that fight. And if you don't, if you want to play finesse, well, they're going to play great defense and choke you out. They'll make you submit and tap out in the second half. They're very defensive minded, run first offense. And, what they really should apologize for, and what Amy Adams Strunk has acknowledged, is the roster just simply wasn't good enough, deep enough. And that starts with their draft picks that are sitting on the bench instead of replacing a turnstile at left tackle that routinely allows Ryan Tannehill to either get hit, or one of the 4 fumbles wasn't on Tannehill, it was on Dennis Daly, who they traded a 5th round pick for to the Carolina Panthers for a player that the Panthers are going to cut. That's how bad they were on the offensive line. It's they shouldn't apologize for winning ugly. And this is a team that routinely finds a way to win. So they're not being, nailed down to that extent just yet. But yeah, I mean, they're going to have to go through a rebuild. And if I may, look, just thinking about what all went down this week, it didn't have to go down with the timing this week, but they're about to build a new stadium. And you better believe ownership does not want to have a scrub team whenever they open up that stadium 5, 6, whatever, 7 years from now. But you've got to build that up to where you've got second-year guys under contracts and you have a window open. And right now, John Robinson just wrapped up a tenure where they didn't sign one of his top picks to a second contract. It was bizarre, and they didn't want him around for December. Again, strange timing. But I think this is more about the future, even though this week felt like the past regimes and past teams, and really awful teams, quite frankly, that I've been a part of and that your Colts beat down on.
When I was looking at a couple of things here, so let me ask you, are in the AFC, it looks to me, now you can tell me I'm wrong. I thought the Chargers looked pretty good yesterday. Obviously, the Chiefs, we think the Bills are any good. Like in Indy, we don't even talk about the playoffs, right? I mean, they're going to make the playoffs. Season saved with a run, obviously. But in the AFC, it looks like the haves and the have-nots are pretty significant.
Yeah, I think the AFC is better than last year. I was having this discussion yesterday in the press box with one of the scouts that sits to my left. Look, last year the 7th seed in the AFC was Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was terrible, and I thought that gave us a snapshot of, man, they added this team, and I'm not going to hate more football, but this feels like the NHL where it's not it's not going to be a great team at 7, and it's not going to be great here either. But I think if the Chargers work their way in, they're a team that feels a bit like the Raiders last year. The Raiders didn't win on the road in Cincinnati either, but that was a tight game. And I just didn't get the sense that, Philadelphia last year at the 6th seed, I believe 7 seed going to Tampa, they get blown out like 35-0. And Pittsburgh in the opening weekend, they didn't stand a chance. Roethlisberger was awful. Point being, I think this version of the NFL is more compacted, even though we're seeing, and a lot of it's due to poor play. But poor play throughout the season, the Chargers are going to end up, I think, getting in because their schedule right now, they play Miami, they beat Miami. They've got Tennessee this coming Sunday. And this is the perfect time to play the Tennessee Titans. So they're getting back-to-back potential AFC wins. after folding up the tent a few times down the stretch of late October, early November, and they could get in. I think, again, I just think they're a better version of Pittsburgh from last year. So yeah, I mean, the NFL is very top heavy this year, but I do find some teams are being overrated / underrated. Baltimore probably ends up winning the North. The best team in that division, and quite frankly, maybe the best team in the AFC, is Cincinnati. And they're going to remind us who the defending AFC champions are, the Bengals, because they're going to go on the road, same as last year. And for some odd reason, they're going to end up surprising some people. And Dallas is another one. Dallas is going to end up on the road because Philadelphia is going to win the division, and Dallas is going to go through Tampa, or maybe Carolina.
You know, it's interesting. Like, man, you know, nobody wants to talk about Cincinnati, but to your point, I was going to ask you about this. This is 5 in a row, and included in the 5 in a row. Now, I don't know. I know the Steelers stink, but you still got to go to the Steelers. They went to the Titans. They beat the Chiefs, and they just beat the Browns, who have, you know, their savior back, Deshaun Watson. It's a pretty good run by a team that not a lot of people are talking about. I think losing 2 in a row to start the season, people poo-pooed them, but Joe Burrow is as good as any right now.
Protecting the quarterback, that's number one. They figured out the offensive line much sooner than they did a year ago. Cincinnati yesterday against Cleveland, they led 13-3 at halftime, 20-3 in the third quarter. They got another touchdown. Jamar Chase had 10 catches for 120 yards. Scored the first touchdown of the game on a dart from Burrow. Look, this is a solid team that believes in the coaching staff, believes in the quarterback, and they believe that they can win different ways. And I think that's the key in the postseason. If the opposing defense shuts down your first weapon, what do you have left? And the Bengals have Mixon. They have Samaje Perine, who, whenever Mixon was out, was running all over teams for the last 2.5 weeks. And aside from Jamar Chase, they now have T. Higgins, who is capable of stepping up to another tier and being a number 1 wide receiver for Joe Burrow. It is a very well-constructed roster, and what they had to hit on, they're getting enough out of, and that's their offensive line, Dan. They're very capable of making another run to the AFC Championship game. I don't know if they can go through both Kansas City and Buffalo, but I can tell you this: I'm not doubting them in that answer. They right now they've beaten Kansas City 3 times in 2022, and they beat them 4 times within the last 12 months. So, I mean, they know what's going on with KC. And then if you got to go through Buffalo, weather and elements all play a factor. But again, I think they're built a little different than other teams that are going to be in that 5, 6, 7 range, because they are very versatile in what they can do. And they have a quarterback that is capable of turning it on even on a bad day. And he can lead you to points.
This is what, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. This is what drives me nuts about the Colts. The Colts said, hey, we're going to build it from inside out. No weapons.
Yeah.
Look, I know this in basketball, your best teams, when you're coaching, you're like, all right, I got great competition in practice, but I know in games that guy's going to come in and give me something. He's a shooter. That guy's going to come in and be a post scorer. That guy's going to come in, and I know that I can rely on him to pick up the pace. You got to give something. You have to. There's got to be something, and when you just have a bunch of non-playmaking guys, they don't give you what you need. When you have playmaking guys like Cincinnati, then I swear to God, you always has a chance. Give me something on Brock Purdy. They find Brock Purdy with frickin' the 6th Mr. Irrelevant, and my Colts have spent $148 million since 2018 on frickin' bad quarterbacks.
Hey, man, but keep this in mind. They've got Brock Purdy. They gave up 3 frickin' first-round draft picks for Trey Lance. So keep that in mind. They paid a heavy price, and it doesn't look like they got that right. But, man, with the last pick in the draft, they backdoor their way into this dude who does not flinch. He just became the first rookie ever to win his first career start against Tom Brady. And until yesterday, Brady was 7-0 in those situations, and he's now 7-1 because of the beatdown. 35-7's the final, and Brock Purdy straight up outplayed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. And so, I mean, you're looking around. Nick Bosa's in the locker room after the game saying, "We got a quarterback." That's amazing. You know, a week ago, he's coming off the bench, and Kyle Shanahan is actually throwing more passes in the game with Brock Purdy than what they would do with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's no knock to Jimmy G, because Jimmy G wins, man. I mean, that was the whole argument of the offseason, because the record with or without him in the lineup is, I mean, it jumps out to you. But you've got Purdy, who completed 16 of 21 pass attempts, I believe, yesterday, 2 touchdowns, didn't throw an interception. That's also key. He rushed for another touchdown. And, you know, Shanahan's 9-29 with anyone other than Garoppolo. And he just picked up his 10th win now that Brock Purdy is outdueling Tom Brady. It's fascinating because some guys just have it, some guys don't. We're seeing another one in New York with Mike White. Mike White, who left the game twice with a rib injury, got lit up, and he earned a ton of respect from his team and his coaching staff. You think Robert Saleh loves the fact that Mike White came back into the game after literally taking the same hits and worse, I think it looked bad, worse than Justin Herbert was taking earlier in the season. That dude's tough too. But Mike White, I think he without even winning the game here, puts a stamp on that the fact that he can play quarterback long term for the Jets, just based on the fact that he can outduel some opponents, and at the same time he's going to come back in and help you win. He's not going to fold and pack up and place blame elsewhere.
Hey, Jonathan, he got beat up so bad they immediately took him to the freaking hospital. Said, okay, you check out, right? I mean, damn, if I'm his teammate, I'm like, man, hey, I got to come to your level. I got to come to your level. I got to be what you are.
Yes.
That's how I used to look at guys as teammates. I got to get to you. That's amazing. Amazing.
Yep. And this is it's big for Robert Saleh. You know, you've got to, and it's coming from the position. That's the key here. Trey Lance in San Francisco, I'm sure he's capable of playing tough. I'm not trying to say that. But what they've got with Brock Purdy and how he's coming in and playing, and then, Zach Wilson with the Jets, and you've got this guy, Mike White, replacing him. There are some situations across the league where some quarterbacks are being overlooked now for the guy that's been not just the second string, maybe the third string. That's certainly the case in New York. They played Flacco earlier in the season. And here's the other thing: there's never been an NFL team in the season that has won a Super Bowl with their third string quarterback as the starter. There have been teams that have won the Super Bowl needing their third string quarterback along the way, but there's never been on week 1 opening day, the third string quarterback on the depth chart playing for the Super Bowl crown in February.
The closest I can remember in this college football is Cardell Jones for Ohio State coming off the bench after a couple guys hurt. But you're right. Yeah, I mean that's
and Cardell. People were talking about Cardell like sitting out and just preparing for the draft or whatever if he was eligible, just to go ahead and go after 2 starts or something.
Right. That's exactly right. They were. Yes. All right, my man. What you got in the show today?
We got a ton of reaction to the NFL week, and we'll piece together all of the big questions entering now week 15 and setting up the playoff run. It is crazy to me for a couple of teams, Dan, who can really discuss postseason play right now. One of them's Carolina. It sounds crazy. Carolina is in the mix for the playoffs. They're this year's version of Pittsburgh, but actually more deserving after everything they've traded away and the injuries that they've had and the guys that they've let go, that they can now actually say they're about a game out with 4 games to play. And they're at the top right now is Brady. That's to me one of the topics. But look, it's the quarterback league. And right now, 2 dudes who we weren't talking about until 2 weeks ago are now helping their teams in a big way. We're looking forward to that. Plus, we're going to hit the Major League Baseball and all the spending spree, the Aaron Judge contract, and more. We'll break that down with Michael McHenry in hour number 2 today. We're live 3 to 6 Eastern across the Outkick network, Monday through Friday.
That's my man. Thank you, Jonathan. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, Dan. Always great, man.
That's Jonathan Hutton. I'm one of the all-time great dudes. I mean, honest to God. And Outkick 360, I'm going to promote the living hell out of that show because it is so freaking good every damn day. I mean, you can follow him at Hutton Outkick. All right. Big news today in college basketball is, guess what? It's the fact that Chris Beard has been arrested, the head coach of the Texas Longhorns. I'll get into that. I got stock up, stock down, but I got to tell you, my Indiana Hoosiers, I got 2 words for you, my backside. I mean, I'll be right back, and we're going to talk about the fraud that is Indiana basketball. I mean, this is breaking my heart. I'm the one that said Indiana basketball is supposed to be really good. I'm the one that said Indiana basketball is supposed to be great. A lot of people are paying a lot of money for these guys to play basketball. I'll get into that when we come back.
College football's in trouble. There's a lot of people trying to keep it from happening.
I think it's a general consensus across the college football landscape. We want to play football.
College football is a huge part of the fall. It's a huge part of Americana itself.
It just really felt like people in the country needed college football to just feel a little sense of normal.
Big news from the Big Ten as the conference releasing its 10-game football schedule.
We go home thinking there's going to be practice the next day. Everybody gets a text, stay home, everything's canceled.
Big Ten fall football season has been canceled.
We just believe collectively there's too much uncertainty.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, though, Kevin, is that was the same position you had 6 days ago.
The Big Ten is an unmitigated disaster.
There was a ton of confusion. There was presidents saying one thing, there was coaches saying another.
Players had to be silent, coaches had to be silent, ADs had to be silent.
People said, how does what you just did make any sense?
And nobody really knew what the heck happened when they voted to cancel the season.
You make this huge historical announcement, and then Kevin Warren never does a press conference to explain it. It was like a masterclass in how not to handle a crisis.
The word really that was lacking in all of this is transparency.
It felt like a lot of stuff was happening behind closed doors.
Even today, we still don't know what occurred.
So you don't tell us parents, that's fine, but you're not telling the young men that it affects.
We have to make a decision to save the season. What about the history books? What about the rivalry games? What about Paul Bunyan's axe? How is that not going to go to a team this year?
This is a failure of epic magnitude. The Big Ten presidents and leaders should be held accountable for the disastrous decisions that they're making.
Then the commissioner doubles down, saying his decision will not be revisited.
And that's the point. It felt like a war was declared on the Big Ten and Kevin Warren.
Everything turned political.
Because if this is medical, then you would have stopped the game of football a long time ago.
I think the Big Ten leaders will tell you that they probably made a mistake in hindsight.
If I had the chance to do it all over last year, I would make the same decisions that we made.
Hey, we do a segment on the show called Stock Up and Stock Down. I got to tell you, I'm going to get into this, and I may go 30 minutes on this. But before the season started, all these clowns at Indiana basketball are trying to raise money for the players at Indiana basketball. And they've come to me a couple times, and I'm like, yeah, that's crap. I'm not supporting a ninth-place team in the Big Ten, which is like celebrated here in Indiana. Like all of a sudden, Mike Woodson comes in, and I really like Mike, and he's got the ninth-place team. They beat a bad Wyoming team in the play-in game, and then they get blown out by St. freaking Mary's. Are you kidding me? Are you out of your freaking mind? And that's celebrated. Hey, guys said, let's give money. Let's keep Trace Jackson Davis here for 300, 400 grand is what I'm hearing. Let's get collective. Let's keep all these guys. And I'm like, hey, how about we win something? I know I'm wrong. I know I'm old school, but I buy in. I'm thinking, man, you got a sixth-year player in this guy Thompson. You got Trace Jackson Davis, who everybody tells me is a first-team All-American. Looked pretty good to me. You got this recruit called Jalen Hood Shafino or whatever. His uncle was a crazy man that we had to kick out of West Virginia, not once but twice. I had to kick him out, and then Beeline kicked him out when he was the leading scorer on the team. So this guy's going to save the future. You got a big man as a freshman who plays great against bad teams. You got a kid named Geronimo, who I love, that apparently regressed. You got a kid named Galloway who's fine. You got a crazy driving nuts going 120 miles an hour down the road kid in Xavier Johnson gets arrested in the offseason, but he's the leader. He starts playing good, so I buy into all of it. I buy into all of it. Best team in the country, deepest team, 2 of everything. Yeah? They're a fraud. And I don't care who. Look, this is my school. This is 17 years. I broke my neck there. I had to have hip surgery because of playing there. Literally, broke my neck, chips in my neck. I don't want to hear it. I took more crap than any human being in the history of coaching from that clown Bobby Knight when I worked for him. Wasn't a clown when I worked for him, was a clown after. So this is my place. And if you're mad at me criticizing an 18 to 23-year-old, don't at me. Because that's exactly what I'm going to do. They're a fraud. They're a fraud. They get it home and they beat a bad North Carolina team. Everybody loses their mind. Oh, they're great. They go on the road and play a little bit of toughness, a team in Rutgers that lost their best player, Geo Baker, that lost their other player, Ronald Harper Jr., and guess what? They get blown out. They come back home, they beat a bad Nebraska team that can't wait to lose games, and then they go play Arizona. And here in Indiana, the great state of Indiana, oh, I read an article. Man, oh man, Indiana lost, but they're close. Yeah? Yeah? 6th-year senior, 6th-year senior. Excuse me. 3rd-year guy, 4th-year guy. Got the oldest team in America. Got guys that have been through everything, and they're close? When the hell is Indiana basketball being close the thing that you're supposed to be? I understand it's written by the idiots at the Indianapolis Star, and they're stone idiots, but that's the way it goes. They're close? That's where we're at with Indiana basketball? After, I don't know, 20 years of no Bob Knight, we're still worried about being close? Are you out of your freaking mind? Why am I the only one? Why am I the only one in this entire state that gets after Indiana basketball to any kind of level? We brought this kid in a few years ago named Romeo Langford. He didn't care about Indiana basketball. He was above it. He was playing for Nike, a shoe company. And everybody lost their mind. Oh, my God, he's so great. He stunk. Couldn't guard nothing. They brought in this other idiot. What's his name? Sean Miller or Archie Miller? I remember telling the AD, you just hired the worst coach you could possibly hire. No, Dan, we hired a superstar. Yeah, okay, how'd that go? So you bring in Woody. I love Woody. Woody was older than me, never played with him, would come back. I'm thinking perfect hire. I still think he's the perfect hire. I do. He's above all the crap. Indiana mommies and daddies, they go get on their little websites and they complain about, my son should be playing, blah, blah. Shut up. They stink. Yeah, they can beat Jackson State. Yeah, they can beat Nebraska. But when you're Indiana, you got to beat good teams. They get another chance. They go to Kansas. Boy, oh boy, if they play Kansas really close, we're back. Really? Oh, he's recruited such great players. Really? Well, one guy's got a back injury, Shafino. He don't play, so that's not a great recruit. I mean, hell, some of us used to play with not one but 2 pulled groins. But this guy's got a back injury. I watch him on the bench. Don't look like he's hurt, but hey, I digress. Maybe he is. Don't know. I'm sitting there watching this fraud of a team, and I'm like, hey, beat somebody good. And then you read about, well, Indiana's... they're right there. They're close. Yeah? They're down 19 points in the first half. Of course they cut it to something. And then when it got tough, what happened? They wilted. It got tough last year for Indiana. It did. They had to play like on a Tuesday and go play on a Thursday out west. They wilted. All the little girls and boys in the media said, oh my God, they're so cool. These guys are a vibe. I remember one girl saying, oh my God, Trey Galloway's a vibe. Yeah, vibe this. Got beat by 37 because he was on a plane dancing and TikToking. I don't care if you dance and TikTok, just win something. What a bunch of crap. All you guys that paid for all these collectives, you got change coming? I'd be calling up. I saw this one guy. He's one of these penny millionaire boosters. He's sitting there all proud, right next to the bench. He and his little pain-in-the-ass family. Here's the deal. He's sitting there. He's the same guy that was bragging about hiring Calvin Sampson. That's how stupid the penny millionaires at Indiana are. Man, we got Calvin Sampson. Really? You got an idiot. That's how stupid they are. Oh, man. It's unbelievable. What does Purdue do? Purdue just shows up with a different group. Let's lose the second, third, fourth, whatever Jay Ivey pick in the draft was. Yeah, get rid of them. Let's go be number one in the country. Indiana's paying millions of dollars for guys that can't beat me. I was going to say something else, but we're trying to monetize the show. I got 2 words for you, Indiana basketball. My backside. I've had enough. Jeez. I'll get to another Indiana team in a minute. Complete clowns, too. All right. Stock up. Pac-12. Why? Well, because they signed up with Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders going to Colorado apparently is a big enough deal that the Pac-12 commissioner said, hold on here. Hold the phone. No. Deion Sanders makes our media rights much more impressive, much more valuable. George Kliavkoff is right. He's right. He's absolutely right. Hey, man, nobody in the world other than his family knew who the coach of Colorado was. Hell, most people don't know where Colorado is. They don't. But they bring in the most interesting hire ever. There's 2 interesting hires. 2. 1, Deion Sanders. 1A, Urban Meyer. Anything other than that, I got nothing for you. Nothing. 0. Zip. Not a damn thing. You hire, you get on TV, you get on national TV. People want Colorado games, particularly if his son is the quarterback. Freaking brilliant. And George Kliavkoff could not be more right. He's 100% right. 1,000% right. Stock up. Stock down. The Indiana Pacers. The Indiana Pacers haven't won squat in their NBA history starting in 1976. Nothing. 0. Zip. Yes, Reggie Miller gave some iconic moments. Yes, they had some iconic bad moments. 4-point play, Antonio Davis fouling Grandmama, or did he? Don't know. They've had moments. 9 points in 8 seconds or whatever it is. Now they got a nice young team, but they're stupid. Why are they stupid? I'll tell you why they're stupid. The Indiana Pacers played the Nets. The Nets didn't have like Irving or Durant because, well, frankly, Irving and Durant never play. I mean, you got to check your phone and go, wait a second. Is Irving and Durant, are they playing? Are they sad today? Are they whining today? Are they okay today? Are they all right? Because you got to, because the NBA is the worst. So Irving and Durant aren't playing, all right? They got Edwards and Morris and Sharp and Sumner and Mills and Williams and Wannabe and Duke Jr. and Thomas. They got nobody you ever heard of. Tell me who Kay Edwards is. I'll tell you who he is. Kessler Edwards. Nobody knows college basketball better than me. Not a soul. All right? Nobody. I couldn't tell you where Kessler Edwards went to college. I couldn't. I couldn't tell you if Markieff Morris, who I think is like 33, Ron Sharp didn't even play at North Carolina. I mean, didn't play, and somehow he became a first-round pick. But here's the dummies. Here's the dummies of the Pacers, because these guys have won so many games, these Pacers, of Jalen Smith, of Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, Halliburton, Nembhard, Nesmith, Brissett. These guys have won so many games that they decided they were going to, and admit it, take the Nets lightly. Now, I don't know if you can be dumber than that in the NBA. Everybody in the NBA can play. I'm just telling you. If you're not a good player by NBA standards, you're still one of the greatest players in the world just by being in the NBA. But these dummies, they admitted, yeah, we took them lightly. You did what now? You say what? You did, huh? Yeah, we took them lightly. You took them lightly. All right? Well, why would you do that? Well, because we're young and stupid. Well, that is a good answer. I'm not going to lie. That is not a terrible answer. When the answer is we are young and stupid, that's an answer that I can get down with. It is. Hey, look, I'm just young and stupid. So, Indiana Pacers, if you're young and stupid, then there is a chance, since you admitted it, that you can get older and wiser. Don't take an NBA team lightly. Don't think that because you don't know who Walker Kessler or Kessler Mountain or whatever the hell Kessler Edwards is, that he can't play. Everybody can play. Hell, you can go to damn Y and guys can play. So just stop it. But that's just stupid. Look, I care this much about the Pacers. In fact, now that I don't do a local show in Indiana, I care about the Pacers maybe more because now I don't have to criticize them. I can relax, watch them as a fan, and hope my friend Eddie White, who works there, and other people that I like there are successful. I like that. It's what I do. But honest to God, the level of stupid there is beyond my thought process. We're ripping. Oh, baby, stock up. Stock up. The Clinton Central girls basketball team. Now, you're going to say to me, Dan, what? Can we show the tweet? Do we have the tweet that I sent you guys? These young ladies went out and got bikes. They went out and got us bikes. They said, Dan Dakich gets bikes, so we're going to get bikes for kids. Those of you that don't know, we have a bikes program. Our bikes program gives kids in the city of Indianapolis, underprivileged kids, bikes. We run it through a company called the Indiana Sports Corp, and it's awesome. So what has happened here is we have, it's branched out. We've done one in Hammond, in Bloomington, in Ligonier, Indiana, all kind of different places. We have done it. And at the end of the day, other people are starting to do it. Guys, I sent you this thing. A few years ago, Dan Dakich started a great thing giving bikes to kids. I decided, the coach said of Clinton Central basketball, to do my part and present two bikes to 2 elementary students in my school. One was able to make it. I loved my face when she heard her name. I loved her face when she heard her name announced. Look at that little girl right there. Look at these young ladies of Clinton Central basketball. Look at these people. Is this awesome? This is what life is about, ladies and gentlemen. This is what everybody should be about. This is what our show is about. Our show is always going to be about helping people. If you want to donate to my bikes program, just go and look this up, Google it, Dakich Cycles for the City. We're hoping to give some bikes away after Christmas. We're hoping to. We're raising money. But I love the fact, and if you want to do it, it's very simple. Just go find somebody in your community that needs a bike for Christmas. Go out and buy the bike. Voila, that's how we started this deal. That's how we started our Dakich Cycles for the City. My wife and I, downtown Indy, saw a couple kids in the springtime. They were on bikes. One wasn't. We thought, you know what? Everybody needs a bike. Let's get kids' bike. You beautiful people of Clinton Central women's basketball, I salute you, man. I salute you big time. You see it right there. Thank you, guys. I salute you. Thank you for doing that. If I got goosebumps. I do. I get goosebumps when I talk about helping people. And Clinton Central girls basketball, you help people. Clinton Central is kind of north of Indianapolis, kind of west or east of Lafayette. It's a great basketball town. I remember being in high school, playing in the state tournament in Mackey Arena. we were playing, big crowd. We were playing the first game. All of a sudden, I couldn't believe how many people were coming in just after halftime. It was Clinton Central High School. They were playing in the second game. It was awesome. I've always been a fan of Clinton Central, and I've never been more of a fan than right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you, you beautiful women, you beautiful men, you beautiful people of Clinton Central girls basketball. More people, get out there and do it and let me know, and I'll praise you too. All right, stock down, DOWN. Anybody still criticizing Elon Musk's takeover of freaking Twitter? Anybody that's saying, hey, look, you know what? Anybody. Do we have the Clown World tweet where we talk about, hey, guy says, can we all agree that Elon Musk is an apartheid-loving white supremacist that I sent? There we go. Yeah, mayo is spicy, you're an idiot. Can we all agree that Elon Musk is an apartheid-loving white supremacist? How about we all agree that you're a jackass? How about we all agree that you want your side and no other side? To anybody still criticizing Elon Musk for buying Twitter, opening up, exposing all of the crap that was going on to silence voices in America. Now, I want you to think about this. I want you to think about this right now. Silencing voices that you disagree with from the Department of Justice, from the freaking president's office administration, from the former president, Barack Obama's wife. Let me ask you a question. I understand you all have to say that Michelle Obama, she's so pretty. Look at her arms. Yeah, well, no. Why is anybody paying attention to Michelle Obama? Why would Twitter, what pressure could Michelle Obama, hey, look, Twitter, let me tell you something. You guys don't censor conservatives. I'm going to come down from my multi-million dollar estate that somehow Barack and I got, even though we've never really had jobs, but I'm going to come down there. Just you wait and see. It would be funny to me. It would make me laugh if somebody said, hey, look, Dan, you got to stop this show because Michelle Obama is pressuring us. You what? Tell her to call me. Hey, Michelle, I know your brother Craig couldn't coach a lick. I mean, more losses out of Craig Robinson than any human. What else you want to know, Michelle? I got it all for you. So you guys, walk me through the jobs that you and Barack have had. What payroll have you ever made? What contributions to the tax? What have you done? You got a job by being a community organizer. Good for you. Great speaker. Never really said anything. Wanted every speech to be on a wall without really saying anything. Hell, even Hollywood made fun of Barack Obama doing nothing. Catch 30 Rock, the most liberal of shows. You got Alec Baldwin. You got Liz Lemon. Are you kidding me? And they make fun of the fact that Barack Obama did nothing in 8 years. But yet somehow his wife is going to threaten Twitter? Are you out of your freaking mind? Yeah, Michelle? Yeah, okay. So you, what? You went from never having a job, you and your husband, community organizer, my bad, to the Senate, to giving a speech at a convention, and now everybody got behind for hope and change. And the African-American community will tell you no one ever did less for them. Yeah, okay, Michelle, threaten us. People still complaining about Elon Musk buying Twitter. God bless you. Somebody said yesterday, it's actually a liberal guy, said, hey, I hear all of this rhetoric about hate speech going up, exploding on Twitter. Does anybody have actual numbers, or is this just, in fact, rhetoric? You know the answer to it. We all know the answer to it. It's rhetoric. Of course it is. Elton John's leaving Twitter. Oh, my God, what are we going to do? Sir Elton, say it ain't so. Oh, my God, no, you must come back. Mark Ruffalino, whatever the hell that is. Somehow is a voice. Oh, my God, don't leave Twitter. He's going to start up his own Come for the Right. They're full of crap. Good for them. I said it before. I'll say it again. The greatest thing about the Trump presidency other than the fact that 401ks were stuffed to the gills, the greatest thing about the Trump presidency is simply this, baby. It exposed exactly what we already knew. The least tolerant in the history of the world are our friends, the liberals. The least tolerant. They say they're tolerant. That's like me saying I got a full head of hair. I got a full head of hair. Yeah. I mean, you say whatever you want. It's all crap, but you can say whatever you want. So there you go. All right. It's unbelievable. Let's go. Who's the woke-a-dope this week? Who are the woke-a-dopes? We got a lot. We got idiots. Man. How about that? Jeep. The nightmare before Christmas. 1,350 workers at the Illinois Cherokee SUV plant laid off, high cost of switching to electric car production, and moves the company to Mexico. Is that incredible? Is that unbelievable? No, it's very believable. It is very, very, very believable. That's the world that we're currently living in. You know, you guys get mad at not you guys, people get mad at anything that they hear that they don't like, except for the things that are really important. I mean, let's be honest. Some guy tweeted mean stuff at me. I'm sad. Yeah, you'll be all right. They wrote an article about me. I'm sad. Yeah, you'll be all right. The stuff we should get mad about is that right there. Why in the hell is Jeep moving to Mexico? You know why? I know why. You know why? Money. Save money. Do they care about the American worker? Absolutely not. Should they care about the worker? Absolutely they should. Hundreds of workers are expected to be laid off when automaker Stellantis closes an assembly plant in northern Illinois early next year. The company employs 1,350 workers at the plant in Belvidere, Illinois. Said the action will result in indefinite layoffs and may not resume operations after it closes. It has been adversely affected by a multitude of factors, ongoing COVID pandemic, really, and the global microchip shortage. But the most impactful challenge is the increasing costs related to the electrification of the automotive market. Produces the Cherokee. It's going to go idle on February 28th. The plant in Toluca, Mexico, will now make the cars. See, none of our idiots in the media will even discuss saying boycott Jeep. None of our idiots in the media care about this. They care about other stuff. They care about, well, Brittney Griner dunked today. Did you see that? Oh, wow. All right. Stellantis said it will invest over $31.6 billion through 2025 on electrifying the cars. It said it expects EVs to make up 100% of its sales in Europe, 50% in the United States by 2023. The White House did not immediately comment, but you know this is coming. You ready for this? It has repeatedly argued EVs, electric vehicles, will boost U.S. auto employment. Really? All right. It's a pretty tough pill to swallow, Tim Ferguson, who is the UAW local chairman or representative. It's a pretty tough pill to swallow. They're going to ship your vehicle to Mexico. There's no question about it. Their plan is to close the plant. There you go. Jeep. I'm not buying a Jeep. I'll never buy a Jeep. You'll never get me to buy a Jeep. That's me. But you know what? I stand for things. I stand for things, and I get ripped for standing for things. I've been reading a lot about me. Let me give you my controversies, my 3 controversies in 14 years. Number 1, not one HR complaint about me. I've had bosses that had HR complaints. I've had all kind of people that are criticizing, not one, 0, zip, because I do my job and I leave people alone. Number 2, I pissed off some bigwigs at Indiana that got to people. I got suspended for ripping, and I mean I ripped and raced and crushed Indiana basketball for cheating back when Archie Miller was there before the NIL. And I mean, it stirred it up like crazy. Guys got mad. I laughed. I took a week's paid vacation as a suspension, and now that's a big deal. Second thing, I told some crazy-ass liberal professor that I, quote, would not go at it in a pool with her. Now, I want you to think about that. She claimed it was assault. My sister, a 25-year prosecutor, said it's the exact opposite. He said he's not going in the pool. Of course, you know what Joanna Mellis, the offended professor did? Blocked everybody. It's great. We all learned over the last couple of years that there's no one worse than liberal professors. We all learned this. The worst. Third thing, final straw. Final straw. A high school coach in Scottsburg, Indiana, was fired during COVID because of crazy parents and crazy board members. I called them out big time. Never called a specific kid a meth head. They said I did. I don't know any of the kids. I got all my information from a friend of mine down there. I ripped him. Apologized for a few things that were supposed to be jokes, but hey, I ripped him, and I'd do it again. All three. I'm not going in a pool with someone that isn't my wife. I don't care how it's worded. Doesn't matter to me. You word it. I was single at the time, and I'd get hit on because, as every single guy in their 50s knows, if you got a job, you get front of the line. It was insane when I was divorced. So I took everything like that, literal, said I ain't going in a pool. I was married. Don't at me. Second, I'd do it again, all of it. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to defend our marriage. We're supposed to defend high school coaches that get unjustly fired. We're supposed to defend the school that we stayed at 17 years, coached at, bled at, gave everything at. While these little clown riders were in bed, my backside was up running suicides at 5 in the morning after a 20-point win against Miami. You're supposed to do that, media. You're supposed to defend those that can't defend themselves. Dakich, you were a bully. No, I wasn't. A bully picks on people. I respond to people. You come at me, I'll respond, I'll move on. I didn't go, hey, look, I saw this guy walking down the street. So anyway, all you media out there, kiss my dupayage. We're rocking and rolling. My man, Dylan, we're killing it. We're going to keep killing it. But media, you're supposed to defend those folks. As a coach, would you dance to get a recruit? I got to tell you, I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. Corey, thanks for the job today. Ryan is off. Dylan, great stuff as always. Aaron, thank you. Cahaley, thank you as well. People are saying, Dakich, it's a major overreaction to Indiana basketball. The hell it is. See, here's the deal. This guy, Drew Sherman, never played at Indiana. I did. Never coached at Indiana. I did. I got higher expectations. We'll see what happens. I hope it's an overreaction, but all I can do is react to how my crew played. I got to tell you, Indiana right now is a fraud. Update on Chris Beard. As of 9 o'clock, Beard was in jail in downtown Austin. He's not seen a judge. It's a third-degree felony. He faces up to 10 years in prison. Tell you what it's going to depend on. Is he a liberal or is he a conservative in Austin, Texas? Thanks to everybody for watching. We're going to be right back here. We're going to bring it every day. Free at last, baby. Free at last. I'm coming at you. See you.